Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Star Trek Picard. Last time on Star Trek Picard, we had broken pieces. What all happened in that one?
Well, they were literally putting all the pieces together. Pretty much everything that they've learned so far. They're telling Shoji, and they're getting information from Dr. Girardi, and they're talking this, that, and the other. Even Captain Rios. Ultimately, at the end, they decide that they're going to head into the Borg wormhole.
Yeah, one of the Borg hyperspace lanes or something.
Go. Yeah, and ultimately, I think at the last shot we saw that some other craft was following them.
Yeah.
But we also got to see the return of 7 of 9, who momentarily became the Borg Queen, which was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And they took care of a bunch of the Romulans on the cube, but then left that kind of open-ended. She and Elnor, the slicing up guy, seem to forge an alliance, and we don't know where they're going yet because we kind of left them in limbo.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty much that. We learned of the Great Destroyer that specifically does not like artificial life forms for some reason, and that this has all been sort of a plot by the Romulans to make sure that synthetic life doesn't get too far advanced, which now it kind of is with Daj and Soji and this homeworld that we're going to. So yeah, this is part 1 of the 2-part finale to this season. So
can't wait.
Yep, it will be interesting. But before we get into that, we do have to go over the whole thing of how you can watch our reaction, because CBS doesn't like it when we put their footage on YouTube. So we find our ways around that, and you can watch our reaction by going down in the description or the pinned comment, and there'll be a link there. It'll take you to our reaction, just one click away, and it's the normal reaction. We're just talking, being goofballs, and watching a TV show. And
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. So, but yeah, you can go do that, and when you're done with that, also be sure that you pop right back over here to this YouTube video for the discussion on this episode. So, yeah, with that said, we might as well go ahead and get into this episode. Here we go.
Well, I got to say, that is a good cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Which you need in a next to the last episode.
Yeah. That didn't work. Going to them, they're not peaceful. They're not like Data.
Well, again, we don't particularly know that, because they do individually seem to have a semblance of a conscience. You notice that Tutra said, we can't have you here convincing us, telling us, getting our hopes up. So it is entirely possible that they might resist. We don't know for sure. That's, why they make us come back and watch the last episode.
Yeah. I suppose it could be that it's all of them just going with what Sutra and Dr. Soong say. So
now, the big thing in this episode is I want to know what's going to happen to the golem. I mean, we know that Picard has a life-ending disease, and are they going to transfer his mind into a synthetic? That would be weird.
That would be weird, because, you would kind of expect, okay, well, if they do that, then I would assume that they would make him, a younger body, and, one that's not as old, but then if you do a second season of this and Picard is a golem, it's well, but you can't keep that de-aging up all the time. So
they'll hire James McAvoy.
I guess. I mean,
he's already played the younger version of Patrick Stewart once.
Yeah. Well, so did Tom Hardy in Nemesis. So
yeah, but Tom Hardy is not 20 years younger anymore.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that would be very weird if they did that. And now I would assume that the original intention for creating the golem would be to transfer Dr. Soong into there, because he's the last organic on that planet. So
But yeah, we could even start a pool. Who's going to get the golem? Because Elnor would be a good choice. That way, he would be not just a warrior, but he would be a synthetic warrior and loyal to Picard.
Yeah.
7 of 9. So I don't know. It's an interesting tease, and yeah, I do makes you want to go see the last episode, so that we can find out how this all ends.
Right. Now, okay, so on this planet, these synthetics were created by Dr. Soong.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure
but
I got that.
They do have a connection to another race of synthetic beings somewhere else who are watching over all of this. Which finally ties all those parts together.
Which is also weird.
Yeah.
Because, first off, I thought this was just, okay, we're going to this planet of these synthetic life forms. Well, but actually they were developed by Dr. Soong, like Data, and they were continued on by Bruce Maddox and by Dr. Soong's son. And it's like, okay, so they're not just a separate race. And it's like, oh, but there is still a separate race. They're just different.
Here's the thought that I had. Go all the way back to Star Trek, the movie.
The original movie?
Because remember what happened? We sent the Voyager to the other end of the galaxy. It fell onto a planet of machines who fixed it and sent it back with the accumulated knowledge of the galaxy. So it is possible. I mean, given that this mechanical planet would have been there probably for centuries or even millennium, that there is that kind of thing somewhere out there that would be able to produce not just a mechanical life form, but a synthetic life form, a synthetic hybrid organic life form.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's just a thought.
Although you could also argue that this is that planet, that it was... that's too... that didn't quite work.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been there back in time, so... Yeah, it could be that. Which, a bunch of people have always speculated that, it's like, okay, well, Voyager was found by this, planet of sort of machines. Everyone sort of thinks, well, that is sort of the beginnings of the Borg, which it could still be. Like, maybe the Borg were something that also spawned from there.
But also go back to the very end of Star Trek, the motion picture, when Decker and Ilea take the information from V'ger and they evolve into a higher life form. Is that the life forms we're talking about here? We don't know. It's speculation. But that would be a fun thing to finally tie all of this back into the very first Star Trek movie.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, I don't exactly see them doing that, because I mean, first off, we're obviously tying everything into next gen, especially with Data, but also just the fact that I don't think anything wants to tie into the motion picture. I think we avoid the motion picture as best we can. So, but it's entirely possible. Yeah, this is also just never where I would have expected a show specifically about Picard to go.
Yeah. And
okay, so it's not, last episode we were talking about, the concept of this ancient destroyer seems so not Star Trek, but it's not exactly that. It's sort of the self-fulfilling prophecy that, well, organics don't like the synthetic life form, so they attack. So they're trying to prevent this destroyer, and then the synthetics are like, hey, the organics are attacking, why don't we be this destroyer? So it always just sort of keeps looping. But there is still this higher species of synthetics out there somewhere.
Yes.
So it almost feels like last episode started a mythology, and then this episode stopped it. It's not a mythology, but it actually is, because it's just something else. Yeah. So
it's a reinterpretation of the mythology.
Yeah, basically. So now it's also interesting because were all the androids that they found here, they all had the more sort of, I guess they had too much bronzer on,
No comments.
That was the only time where it's like, okay, Sutra is clearly a lot more robotic looking than Shoji or Dodge ever was, or ever were. And I guess that was because when Maddox took them away, he must have made them look a bit more human.
Yeah.
So
that they could, exist on Earth without being recognized.
Right. Although I will say, like, just the design of these androids is like, okay, it makes more sense. Like, okay, these are the androids that are supposed to look like Data, and it's like, okay, but I don't know. There's something about them. It's like, now Data wasn't very gold. He was pale, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, but that's the interesting thing. It's like, how far along are these androids compared to where Data was? Also, if all these were created by Dr. Soong, why did Dr. Soong ever leave this planet and then go make Data and Lore? Would be my next question. That may be the one thing where it's like, okay, these were all created by Dr. Soong. Okay, why did he ever leave here? Why did we never know about this? And why did he just go to the Federation and then just create Data and Lore? That would be my one thing where it's like, we need to tie that a bit in.
Well, I didn't quite get that because I didn't think that Soong had been to this planet. I thought that it was just his son who had taken his work after Soong had passed away, and then he went to the planet and did all this.
It could be that.
A few minor loose ends that we need to tie up.
Yeah, it could be that. Which, introducing Dr. Soong's son was very clever, and it makes sense with this origin for this planet. And it brings back Brent Spiner in a role, and in a complete role, not just the flashbacks we've had with Data. So yeah, that is pretty cool. So we can go ahead and start popping into some of these notes here. Coppelius, that's how you say it? Coppelius? Coppelius. Yeah. That was the name of the planet, which that was interesting, the connection you made with sort of this Pinocchio sort of story. And bringing these dolls to life, that does make a lot of sense if with Dr. Soong creating these androids.
The only time I ever remember hearing the name Coppelia was, again, in college. Our dance department put on a production of Coppelia, and they got one of the actors to play Dr. Coppelius because he didn't need to be a dancer because he was the comic relief, creating all these ballerinas and the guys that are dancing around doing all that stuff. But I specifically remember it's about a guy who creates dolls that he then tries to either make them come to life or try to make them dance or something like that. So I'm suspecting that's what the connection is.
Yeah. I wrote down the Orchids and the Crash. That's weird. They threw 5 flowers at the sky, and it brought down their ship, and it also brought down a Borg cube. And it's like, well, we have 10 more of those. And it's like, what? Why? And why do you guys not have any sort of a ship? Unless it's that the only ship they had was the one that Maddox took when he left. So
yeah, that could be. Well, the other thing is, it's so incredibly remote. They're not expecting to ever encounter other life forms, but on the off chance that somebody wanders by. Now, the real orchids don't do this, but there are plants that have a scent or some kind of juice inside that lures insects in and then kills them. Yeah. So maybe that's what this is supposed to represent: is if you get too close to us, we will lure you in and then prevent you from leaving.
And I guess that makes sense with Dr. Soong. He probably wouldn't think like, well, we have to have like planetary defenses and phasers or ships or something like that, because he's just there trying to do his work, basically. So yeah, and that was the next thing I wrote down was Dr. Soong, which that is pretty cool. That, well, first off, that it's still Brent Spiner, and it's like, well, you could almost argue like, well, maybe the original Dr. Soong also just based Data and Lore after him, which also happened to be just after himself because the two of them look so identical. And it also works out with the whole, it seems like all the androids come in pairs. So that makes sense that there's Dr. Soong, and then there's his son, like there was Data and Lore. And then B4, he's just sort of the odd one out in Nemesis. So the only thing I would question is, why is it there are 2 sets of this particular model that create, one set being Daj and Shoji and the other being Sutra and Jana? Why is it that there are 2 sets of them? Because there didn't seem to be 2 sets of anyone else.
Yeah,
So,
not that we could tell, because they
Yeah.
certainly weren't standing together, but we don't know. Again, that may not be a specific thing, and it may be something that they're going to tie up in the last episode.
Right. And why is Sutra the leader? That'd be my next question. Shouldn't it just be Dr. Soong? But I don't know. And maybe you could also say, well, if Sutra being the leader and Jana, she was the one that went out for first contact and stuff. Maybe Maddox then was like, okay, these two seem to be our best models, so I'll recreate them as Dodge and Shoji. So it could be that.
Now, one thing I didn't understand is why did Sutra allow Narek to escape?
I'm pretty sure. I think the reason that she allowed him to escape was that he would specifically kill
the girl,
kill Saga, which would give them proof that we need to exterminate all the organics and stuff.
Okay,
so
that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's playing both sides of the war basically, which pretty much leads into the self-fulfilling prophecy that while the Romulans, they think that all these androids are a threat, so they're going to go attack them. The androids say, hey, these organics are clearly a threat because they're trying to kill us, so we need to kill them. And it's just an endless looping cycle because no one will realize if you just left them alone, it would be fine.
Yeah. Now, where was Narek running at the end there when he escaped? Did his ship survive when he came down?
I wouldn't think so. It looked like he was headed for the Borg cube.
Yeah.
So maybe he can find some sort of an escape pod and get out of there. So,
okay.
Yeah. And with all the sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, we also have the Destroyer. It's like, well, Shoji is the Destroyer. It's like, not really, though. She's just sort of... I don't even want to say she's sort of setting things into motion. It's just now she has accepted that she needs to help stop all the organics. So,
but devil's advocate here. Shoji was having that very long philosophical discussion about, what is the calculus of life and death. And she may be calculating that the only way that she can resolve this situation is to go along with Sutra, and being an artificial life form, perhaps she can control her own biometrics so that it doesn't appear that she's lying. And she's doing what you were saying, playing both sides here, and that she will perhaps come out and, we've had this, discussion right there at the end with Dr. Girardi. A mother is willing to, lose her own life for her children. Will you do that? And Shoji may be thinking, I may have to destroy this handful of synthetics here to prevent them from, killing millions of organics. So I don't know, but that's just a devil's advocate.
Yeah, so it, to everyone else, it appears like Shoji is taking on the role of Destroyer and, going along with everything. Oh, we got to destroy all the organics. But secretly, it's like, I have to end this somehow.
Remember, that's what Data did in First Contact. He allowed the Borg Queen to think that he was going along with her. And he said, I did think about it for 0.64 seconds, which for an android is an eternity, whatever that was. But yes, she could be going along with it to ultimately see how she can prevent it.
That would be a good callback to, because that is something that Data did. Because, that's the thing is, I almost feel like we've kind of lost sight of this a bit, but the whole thing of, originally, we kept saying, well, Data was their father. It's like, well, not really technically. It would be more Bruce Maddox, because he created these particular androids and at least made them more human-like. And then you could also say, well, it was Dr. Soong, because Dr. Soong created all of these androids. And yeah, it's almost like we've sort of lost that connection for Dodge and Shoji to Data. But that could sort of bring it back a bit, is that she does something that Data did in First Contact. So it could be that. Okay. And we'll
find out shortly.
Yeah, that is definitely what Agnes was trying to do. It's like, it is very clear that she is trying to stay in with the synthetics, hopefully to try to get some advantage. So yeah, she's really gonna have to try to secretly, do all this and not appear like she's lying. That could be really hard for her, I feel like.
Well, but she's got this whole thing. She's trying to clear her conscience. It's like Natasha Romanoff. I got a lot of red in my ledger, and I want to make sure that I balance it out.
Yeah.
And she killed Maddox, which was a very bad thing to do, even though she thought she had no choice. But now she's looking at this, going, if I have to give my life in order to save the synthetics by destroying them, that's kind of a twisted logic, but it would also, in her mind, be a truth.
At the very least, it would save the galaxy from... It would save the galaxy from this war that the synthetics want to go on.
Yeah.
So, and I do like the tie-in that, it's like, well, Picard, he'll go and be the voice for them in the Federation. It's like, yeah, you tried that once with the Romulans, and look where they are now. Yeah. So I like that ties back in, too, because we also... It almost feels like, well, we sort of moved away from that with, everything that happened with the destruction of Romulus and stuff. It was more about the attack on Mars and the ban on synthetics that got us to this point, but it does tie back into that, too.
Now, here's just another little thread that might be a Deus Ex Machina. We know that a squadron was sent to DS-12.
Yes.
We know that Picard was trying to get through subspace to Starfleet.
Right.
So what happens if, after the Romulans come through the wormhole, the Federation squadron comes through the wormhole? We don't know how many's in a squadron, but obviously they could deal with 218 Romulan warbirds or whatever. They at least could put up a fight and at least show that they were willing to try to save the synthetics. Again, that's a little far-fetched, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, it is definitely a possibility that the Federation will actually do its job for once and actually come in and try to help them, and that could persuade the synthetics. I could also see, maybe it doesn't persuade Sutra, but it persuades everyone else, and then they go against her and stuff, and maybe that's how they find out about Saga. But yeah, I could see that happening if they were able to contact Starfleet and tell where this planet is. So, which I feel like the Borg cube should be able to do that. So,
and if Seven of Nine gets the Borg cube at least semi up and running, it would also have a huge amount of firepower against the Romulan fleet.
Yeah, which. It's also, there's been one thing I was sort of wondering during this episode. So this is just a particular group of Romulans, right? So they're not a part, because I was wondering, it's like, okay, well, if the Federation just show up and, we have this big battle with the Romulans, is that going to ignite a new sort of Romulan war? And it's like, well, maybe the other Romulans that are not there, they'd be like, we're not with them. We're not going to be a part of that.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have the visions and go crazy and don't like androids. We're not part of that. Yeah. So
that's, again, all of these things will be wrapped up tightly, we hope, in the final episode.
They should all be. Everything should be answered in episode 10.
And if it's not, we're going to be very angry.
I would assume that pretty much everything will be wrapped up next episode. This is a very contained story, so I don't really see this going on into the second season. Although if they put Picard in that golem, then I guess I could see how you could do that for the second season, but it just seems odd.
Yeah.
It just seems a little too odd. Unless they're going to take this time, like you said, if they got James McAvoy in and it's like, well, now he's Picard, and it's like, I don't want that. Yeah. It's like, I just want Patrick Stewart to just, end the role gracefully, basically. Yeah. So,
what else?
I think we pretty much covered everything. Okay. Logic of sacrifice, the self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, I think that was pretty much that. So,
and one last little, you want to talk about one last little throwback, goes back to Wrath of Khan. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah.
Or the one.
Yeah.
All right, and that may be ultimately what either Shoji or Dr. Jurati or Picard come to the realization. That's
Yeah.
that's the ultimate logic. If one person can save as many people as possible, then that's the calculus. That's the equation. That's what balances.
Yeah, they could do that. The only thing is, I don't quite see Picard doing that.
No.
I see Picard still trying to be like, all right, no one's gonna die. We don't have to kill anyone, because he still holds all those Starfleet standards, So it's basically Picard has the standards of Starfleet that Starfleet doesn't have right now.
Yeah.
But Starfleet could live up to if they show up. So
We shall see.
yeah, they're all chilling at Deep Space 12 right now, wondering where Picard is. So, but yeah, we will have to find out in the grand finale to this season. So, yeah, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right, then we might as well end this. So, yeah, we will see you guys next time. We're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films. See you guys then. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Star Trek Picard reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.